I don't even know where to start with Runner 3. There's just so much going on. If you're not familiar with the Runner franchise, it's an auto running platformer that's music based. I guess that's how you describe it. And that might sound weird, and that's because it is weird, but in a good way. The whole game is weird. The gameplay idea is weird, the mechanics are weird, the level design is weird, the characters are weird. It's all weird stuff, but I love that kind of weird. And I love music-based games, and there's no doubt about it that Runner 3 is very focused on music. You're creating music as you go. The music tells you what to do. You're playing in harmony with the music. It's just, it's when it all comes together, it's absolutely beautiful in its own way. And it comes together every time you play through a level. It's just, putting together the right maneuvers to make it come together. And it's going to be frustrating, and it's going to be challenging, and there's going to be plenty to test your patience. But boy, is it a fun experience if you stick with it, and one of the most rewarding games I've ever played. So what's the basic experience in Runner 3? That would be going through a level and trying to get to the end. That's all you're trying to do. You start a level and you're running through it and you want to make it to the goal, which is a cannon. You hop in a cannon and you shoot yourself at a target. That's it. And you've played a million platformers before, I'm sure, so you're like, what the hell's the big deal here? This can't be all that challenging. Yes, it's auto-running, but I can handle that. Well, you are in for a rude awakening, because Runner 3, Runner and Runner 2 certainly commanded a lot of your attention and were very challenging in their own right, but Runner 3 dials that up to a ridiculous level, and you are going to die a lot. There are going to be levels that you won't make it through after 100 attempts, and that's just the way the game is, because, so there's a checkpoint. There's one checkpoint halfway through a level, so sometimes you can get, like, almost to that checkpoint, and you die by one hit, so that's a crash into a wall, or a crash into an enemy, or a fall in a pit. And you go all the way back to the beginning and you have to start over. So there's no avoiding that. That's what you have to do, and that right there is going to frustrate some people. Now, that's how it was in previous games, but I feel like the levels in Runner 3 are longer than ever. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean it in a good way. It's just that the further you get into the game, you're like, oh my god, I have no chance of surviving this. So when you hit a section that gives you trouble, you might die once, and then you're going to have to work to get back there again and die again, and you only get, like, a couple seconds to take a peek at it, and you're like, I just don't have enough time to react. I don't even know what I'm going to do. I need to, like, get there and just take a look at it and try and figure out what I need to do to overcome this. But you don't have that luxury. In a traditional platformer, you could get to that section and look at it and analyze it before you tried to tackle it. But this is, you got to play, and then you're like, okay, here it comes, I'm going to do, oh, I failed. You just got to start it over. So I know that is going to be frustrating. And like I said, Runner 3 is the most challenging, I feel, by far, so these moments do come up a lot, but I'm the type of player who really likes those moments. I'm the type of player that's like, nah, you're not going to beat me. I can see what to do here. And you take little snippets of when you get to those sections, and you're like, okay, I know that's there. Maybe I could try this. And you go through and you try it, and it doesn't work. And you're like, all right, I'm not paying close enough attention. I need to listen to the music at this part. I need to figure out the layout in my mind and see it before I get to it. And then, something clicks and you get it, and you're like, oh my god, it makes sense now. And figuring out that little section will help you throughout the whole level and levels to come. And you build that, like, knowledge of how to deal with certain types of jumps and certain platform lengths and stuff like that. And you can see them coming on the path ahead, and you're like, okay, I know, like, on this beat, I'm going to jump and that'll set me up correctly. So it's such a satisfying feeling, but it is certainly not going to be for everyone. There's going to be people that just don't get it, don't feel it, don't hear it, and they won't be able to do it, and are going to throw down their controller in frustration. That's just the way it is. I think it's a shame, but I recognize that players are like that. So hopefully you're not like that and you're willing to give it a shot, because like I said, it's extremely rewarding, and this game is not afraid to challenge you. If you're somewhat of a masochist like I am, you're going to go through the level and try and get the 100 gold that are hidden in each level. Now, they're, well, not hidden, they're in each level, easy to see. But getting them is a little bit different than running past them because you can make your path a lot easier by just running past them. But if you get them, these add up and they unlock new levels on the world map that you can't otherwise gain access to. So, personally for me, when I play, I go through a level with the main goal being get 100 gold. I want to get all the gold in one level. And this makes it a lot more challenging. And that's not to say that's the hardest challenge in a level, because there's alternate paths that you can take where you have to do completely different things. There's also gems to collect, and you use gems to buy stuff in a store for like costumes and accessories and stuff like that. And those paths and where those gems are hidden are even more difficult. So there's all kinds of challenges. But just for me, base challenge, base route I want to take is go through and get 100 gold. And I can't tell you how many times I've like looked at a path ahead and I'm like, I don't even know how to jump here to get this gold. Like, I could make it through this section, but I can't make it through and get all the gold at the same time. And I just got to play and play and play and get it. But yeah, seeing that 100 gold collected at the end, you're like, oh my god, I feel like the best game player in the world. And then, you know, that lasts for all of 5 seconds and you go into the next level and you're like, oh god, here we go again. And then I made the mistake of looking at the counter because it counts the gold as you go along, and you're like, boy, I've been playing this level for a long time, and you look up at the counter and you have like 38 gold and you're like, oh Jesus Christ, there's so much more to do. But you know, I don't mean that in a bad way. It is daunting, sure, but I don't mean it in a bad way. It's fun. It's fun to know that that challenge is ahead. So there's certainly plenty of challenge and plenty to collect and plenty to see and do. And if you're up to the task, the game is gonna really do its best to try and wear you out. You might watch footage of Runner 3 or have seen the trailers or whatever, and you're like, I don't get what music has to do with this game. And I can understand that. At first, when you play it, you might not think music has all that much to do to it. You might hear when you're playing that as you're going through the level, you're helping to create the music, because every little piece of gold that you get will add a little sound effect, like a little note, basically. It's like bleep, bloop, blop, bloop, bleep, stuff like that. But it all plays into the song. And subconsciously, that fits into what you need to do to get through a level. It's almost like the game, as you're running, is like a musical staff or whatever you want to call. I don't know music terms, but like picture like Commander Video as like your eyes reading the lines of music on a sheet, and the gold pieces are like notes. And you might not know what sound the note is going to make because it's just a piece of gold, obviously. But you'll know that there's a sound coming there. And that lets you, in your mind, plan out when you need to jump. Because you can think, oh, if I jump here, I'll touch the gold at that point. And because you're always running at the same tempo, or at least for the most part you're running at the same tempo, you can know when you're supposed to hear that sound effect. So it helps you to learn like how to time your jumps. And there are portions of the game where that's really important. You can see a layout of gold ahead and you're like, okay, I know how that's going to work. And I know exactly when to jump because I know how the sounds are going to play out in my head. Like I said, you won't know the specific tone, but you'll know like boop, 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 boop. And that'll let you know like, okay, I jump here, pause, jump, 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 something like that. It's a hard thing to explain, but it really came in handy when I was playing. There's a clip from The Simpsons that might explain it better.
Sounds like she's hitting a baby with a cat.
You have to listen to the notes she's not playing.
I can do that at home.
The level in which the music is integrated into Runner 3, I think, is far beyond what was done in Runner 1 and Runner 2, and I thought those games were amazing with what they did with music, but here, I'm blown away. I don't understand how the entire development team didn't go absolutely insane building this game, because the levels and, you know, jumps and holes and enemies and just terrain placement, all of that is perfectly timed to very sophisticated music, down to, you know, the millisecond. It's right on, and you can use that to play the game. That seems mind-boggling. It seems absolutely maddening. When I'm playing it and I see how all this stuff comes together, I'm like, wow, this is super impressive. How in the hell did they make this? Seems like a game that should take like 10 years just to marry like the visuals on the screen and what the player is doing and all of it moving at a certain tempo and, you know, creating music with the stuff that you're picking up. It's so impressive to me. And like I said, it's not that just it sounds good and, you know, it's a good beat and keeps you engaged. It really factors into the gameplay and can help you to play. I think that's such an amazing achievement, and it's far deeper, I think, than any music game I've seen out there. And it's funny because, like I said, at first look, the average person might, or the average gamer might look at this and be like, I don't see what this has to do with music. You're just adding to the music as it goes on, which is true, but since the game is challenging, particularly the extra levels, this kind of music integration and how you can plan out stuff ahead really matters and can really help. I mentioned those extra levels really quick. There's levels that you unlock with gold, and these levels are absolutely grueling. They are so challenging. I've played Celeste. I've done half the seaside levels. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm going through it, and it's definitely challenging, without a doubt. But Runner3's levels, side levels, or whatever you want to call them, the ones you have to unlock with gold, oh my god, they're on a completely different level. They are really ready to test your patience, but again, these levels made me a better player at the regular game, at the regular main path that you go through. Because right off the bat, seriously, right off the bat, the first extra level that you can unlock, I jumped into it and I was like, I have no chance. I don't know what to do. It's not coming together. And it forced me to really listen to what the game was telling me. And the game basically, if you listen to the tune that plays in these levels, whatever it may be, there's a certain instrument that you can follow that is basically telling you when to hit the jump button or when to hit an action. So every time you hear, like, so a melody might go like bleep blop 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 bleep blop blop, and that'll mean like jump duck jump 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 duck blah blah blah. You get the point. And the first challenge level or extra level that I went through, I did it, I want to say, over 150 times. I know over 100, but over 150 times, and that's even with using the checkpoint, so you get a checkpoint halfway through. But it was super challenging, and then I started to listen, and I'm like, this game is telling me how to beat the level. With timing of the music. It's telling me when to do an input. I just have to figure out what that input is, and most of the time it's jump, obviously, but sometimes it's duck, and sometimes it's a double jump or something like that. And you know, hearing it is one thing, and then getting it done is another, but you are hearing exactly when to hit the button. And after you've died so many times, you'll know the melody in your head up to that part where you died, and you're like, oh, this is all clicking now. I don't like when you know what the music is supposed to sound like and you're running through the level, you can do sections closing your eyes, because you'll know, like, you'll have the muscle memory in your hands and you'll have the memory of the song in your head, and you can just play it back and do it that way. It's crazy, because if you're looking at the gameplay, you would think that's completely impossible, especially in these extra levels, but it's not. And sometimes it even helps. This is the best way I can describe it. Runner3 really makes the controller in your hand feel like an instrument. There might not be any music coming out of that controller, but it's basically like a drum kit, and your drums are, you know, the jump button, the duck button, different directions for springing off springs and kicking through walls and stuff like that. So you hear what you're supposed to do, because I was hearing, like, in my mind, the press of the button. Now, I don't mean I'm actually hearing like a little click noise, but I would hear in the song where my thumb should hit to play into the song, and once that all clicked, it made so much more sense. And that kind of stuff certainly can be used in the regular levels, but I think making it through those challenge levels just based on visuals and not paying attention to the music, I don't want to say it's impossible, but it'd be pretty damn close to impossible. Well, let's put it this way. I could not do it like that. The music teaches you so much if you really listen into it and put it all together. So I've never had an experience like that. I've played plenty of music or rhythm games where the music is definitely important, but not to this degree where it's trying to like teach you how to play. It's really something else. It's amazing to take part in, and it just feels really cool. That's one of the best things I can say about it. You feel awesome when you're doing this kind of stuff, and you're like, holy crap, this actually makes sense. This actually works. I think I've explained how important the music is to the game, but the music is also really fun to listen to. It's goofy and silly, and it's got a beat and makes you tap your toes and sticks in your head, and it's just really good stuff. It has to be, because you're going to hear it so many times. It's just a really fun soundtrack, and that's been the same for the previous games, and the stuff that you hear here is great. You grab the boom boxes as you're going along, and each boom box will add like another layer to the song, and flourishes and stuff like that. And as you're getting it all, and as you're going through a level, like the first, this is the honest to God truth. The first level of the game, when I first sat down to play, and you're grabbing the boom boxes and going deeper into the level, and the music's getting more sophisticated and swelling and stuff, it really brought a tear to my eye. That is not a lie. I don't know what it is. I feel a very deep connection with music games. I love music in general. That's a stupid thing to say, you know. Plenty of people like music, but there's something about games for me that marry music and gameplay together that I just find amazing. And just that first level alone, I was like, yep, this is going to be another awesome runner game. It just made me feel. That's what it did. It made me feel. So the music's really fantastic. The gameplay is fantastic. And the visuals are absolutely bonkers. There's all kinds of weird stuff going on. And this might be one of the bad things about the game. Not because it's not fun to look at, but because you are so focused on what you need to do, like I said, jumping over obstacles and kicking down walls and all the other things that you have to do in the game. You're so focused on that you don't really get to see what's going on in a level. And you might go through a section of a level 40 different times, probably more than that. And you're just so focused on getting through a section that you don't see what's going on, so you miss all these zany, wacky, weird visuals. It's got a style that reminds me of like Pee-wee's Playhouse, like all that like weird animation and claymation stuff that they did, which I loved. I loved that weird stuff. And that's what's going on here. There's like weddings going on inside of refrigerators, and robot eyeballs, and like giant dolls, and food landscapes. I don't want to spoil some of the stuff later on, but it is so weird. It's really out there, and I feel like this time the dev team was like, let's just go all out. Let's go absolutely insane with this stuff. So watching someone else play is fun in its own way, because you get to see all these weird, wacky landscapes that they created, and there's so much weird stuff going on. It's definitely worth a look. I would tell you to pay attention to it while you're going through a level, but I didn't. Like, there would be certain times where I'd pick up on something, and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? But it's much better if you're watching someone else play, where you just get to take in all that weird scenery. Runner3 handles that scenery in a different way too, because there's all kinds of unique and moving camera angles that we haven't seen in this series before. And that might sound like, you know, no big deal when you compare it to any other game, because every game has camera angles, but for Runner3 it really switches things up. Like, the camera's going to swing around behind you, the camera's going to swoop and turn depending on what you're doing. You'll run right to left and then left to right. You're in a mine cart and you're going through a cavern and it's twisting and turning with you. All kinds of stuff that when I saw it, I was like, oh man, I'm really, I was surprised. I didn't think that they would do that here. And for the most part, that stuff works. It's certainly fun to look at, but when you go through a couple of those camera angle changes, it might throw you off on your beat or throw you off on your gameplay a little bit and make it it certainly looks more cinematic, but sometimes it can be harder to judge what you're doing. And it's not a deal breaker by any means. There are just a couple times where the game would change a camera angle and I'm like, oh, I'm thrown off a little bit, and I would die, and then, I'd do it a couple more times to get used to it. But that's not all of the camera changes, obviously. That was just a few unique instances for me. But again, nothing that really bothered me. And it's just cool to see the game take those chances and twist and turn and swing and move the camera around like that. Because you would think it would completely break the game, and it definitely doesn't. And it certainly gives it a much more vivid and alive feel. Runner3 just throws so much at you to do. Just making it through the level itself can be a challenge that's really going to test your patience. But then on top of that, like I said, there's the gold to collect to unlock extra levels. Then there's gems to collect that get you other things that you can shop for. And then there's boss battles that you take on that are also just as weird as every other part of the game. There's a whole like more traditional platformer in here that you can unlock by collecting things and levels. There's extra characters you can unlock. Like I said, we've talked about a few of them, like Charles Martinet and Eddie Riggs and stuff like that. There's so much to do. There really is so much to do. And if you're trying to perfect a level, or perfect a level, I guess I should say, it's going to take a long time. There's a lot of stuff to do, and you're not going to make it through the first time. You may hit a level where you make it through on the very first try and be like, this game's not so hard. And then you'll get to another level and be like, well, this is my 248th try. I hope I do it this time. So yeah, don't expect to be like through this game and complete it in like a couple hours. That is not going to be the case. I'm still working on stuff. And there's some bonus levels that I don't know if I'm ever going to beat because they're so challenging. You look at portions of the level and you're like, there's no way I can physically move my hands fast enough to do this stuff. But I will get there. It takes time, but I will get there, and I want to get there. That's the important thing. The game makes you want to do this stuff. If it was just challenging and unfair, you'd be like, nope, not even gonna waste my time. But you get little pieces and you're like, I can put something together here. So all this stuff you unlock and all this stuff to collect and all this stuff to find and all these characters to get and all that, there's a ridiculous wealth of content here that should keep you very busy for quite a long time. When I do reviews, I don't want to say things that are hyperbole, or at least I don't want to say things that come across as hyperbole, but I'm going to say some things about Runner3 that I know are going to sound like that, and I would hope that from watching my reviews or reading my reviews over all these years, you guys would know that's not the case. I'm telling you my honest opinion. I think Runner3 is the pinnacle of the Runner franchise, hands down. But I also think Runner3 is one of the top rhythm games, if not the top rhythm game. I've never seen a game use the music in this way. I've seen games that marry music and gameplay, including previous Runner games, but I've never seen one that puts them together on this level, a surface level, a deep level. It's like I said, it's mind-blowing to me. And that's what this is my personal opinion. Obviously, this whole review is, but my personal opinion is when it comes to rhythm games, I feel like rhythm games are the genre that are super weird and super out there and do all kinds of things you would never expect, and they're not afraid to be themselves. It's like the rhythm games are like the punk of video games, and Runner3 is that to a T. It knows exactly what it wants to be. It's not afraid to be completely off-the-wall bonkers, and that's a compliment. It's doing its own thing, and it's not going to be for everybody, and everybody's not going to get it, and there's going to be people who play it who just don't understand what to do, and that's totally fine, because there's going to be a group of people who play this game, and they're going to completely see what's going on, and they're going to completely get like what the gameplay is offering. And it's very hard to talk about this without sounding like, oh, if you don't understand how this game works, then you're below me. That's not what I mean. You know, sports games aren't for me. Like, I can play arcadey sports games, but traditional sports games just aren't for me. I'm glad people play them. I'm glad they exist. I'm happy people get a lot of fun out of them. Runner3 is my type of game, and it's not going to be for everybody, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be. But if you've played the previous Runner games, yes, 1,000,000% you're going to want to play this game. If you like rhythm games, yes, 1,000,000% you should check this game out. I guarantee you have never played a rhythm game like this, even if you've played the previous Runner games. You're going to notice that it's taking things to a much deeper level. I don't know what else I can say about Runner3. It's so interesting to me on so many levels. I could talk to the developers from now until the end of time, and I still wouldn't be able to understand how it all came together. But as far as a game, it's ridiculous. in all sorts of crazy, wonderful, weird, wacky ways. It's a blast to play. Play it with some really good headphones, or play it with a really awesome stereo that you have hooked up to your TV. Is that what kids call it? Surround sound? Whatever. I feel like I say things and I sound like an old man. Like, put on your best earphones and listen up, children. Well, yeah, whatever the best way is you have to hear video games, do that with Runner 3. And get ready for a really engaging, awesome experience. Hey guys, RMC here from Go Nintendo. If you like what you saw in the video, why don't you give us a thumbs up and maybe even subscribe? We'd love to have you. If you want to see what else we're up to, you can check out GoNintendo.com for 24-hour Nintendo news. You can visit us on Facebook at Facebook.com/GoNintendo. You can check us out on Twitter at Twitter.com/GoNintendoTweet. And we're even over on Instagram at Instagram.com/GoNintendo. I put all the links in the description just to make it easier for you guys to follow. Thanks a lot.